Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is one of the best platforming games and my favorite 2D platforms I've played so far. Though DK has been absent for the past 10 years and we currently don't know what's up next for the franchise, I still have some hope for a new DKC. Hell, Returns took 14 years to come out after 3, so there's probably still a high chance of a new DKC coming out. Hell, it might even be the launch of the next console, but who knows. Anyway, we're here to talk about Tropical Freeze. This review has been in development hell for months, so I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. So without further ado, let's look back at Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze 10 years later. Backstory and development. Before you talk about the game itself, we have to talk about how it came to fruition. After the release and success of DKC Returns on the Wii, Retro Studios, the developer of the game, were pretty happy about how it turned out. It sold well, it was praised really highly. The only real problem people had with the game was the motion controls, which couldn't be changed for a normal control scheme. Though I personally haven't played the game yet, I can see how it can be really annoying, especially when doing specific moves. But I digress. DKCR was a hit for both Nintendo and DK fans. But after the release of it, there were still a ton of leftover ideas from Returns that simply couldn't be put into the game. Rather it be time restraints or hardware limitations of the Wii, there were still a ton of leftover ideas who never made it into the game. So Retro Studios decided to make another DKC game. It's unknown when development officially begins for the game, but I can guess it was around the same time when the Wii U first released, which by the way, it's been more than 11 years that the Wii U came out. Holy fuck, is it really that long? God. Anyway, we don't know much about the development process itself, but we know when it was originally supposed to release, which was November 2013, which would be nearly 20 years after the release of DKC 1, which they probably did as a nice little throwback. But there was an issue. See, around the same time Mario 3D World was also coming out with an unknown release date. So what happened is that these games essentially ended up swapping release dates, with 3D World coming out in November 2013 and Tropical Freeze being delayed to February 2014. Which in my opinion is understandable. You have to polish your game in the last few months. Anyway, with the announcement of Tropical Freeze, it started up a controversy, which in my opinion is one of the most stupid ass controversies in Nintendo history. See, what happened is that after the announcement of the game, a certain fanbase was pissed, that being the Metroid fanbase. As we all know, Retro Studios were well known for making the Metroid Prime trilogy for the GameCube and Wii, and the Metroid fanbase was pissed because instead of making a new Prime game to boost the sales of the Wii U, which wasn't doing great by the way, because we all know Nintendo kind of fucked up the ad campaign for the Wii U, with it being a confusing console to advertise for, being too similar to the Wii, and the fact that there's a shit ton of Wii games which have the Wii on their title, like Wii Sports, Wii Music, Wii Party, Wii Fit, etc. It didn't really help. Combine that with the lack of third-party support and no interesting titles on the consoles at that time, it ended up damaging Nintendo and the Wii U's reputation pretty badly. Honestly, the failure of the Wii U is a topic we have to talk about on another day because it really doesn't fit here and it's some rabbit hole we have to go down some other day, but not now. Anyways, the Metroid fanbase got pissed because they thought that the Wii U didn't really have any cool mature games to rival with the PS4 and Xbox One, which were selling way better than the Wii U. Instead, it was filled to the brim with platformers. A lot of platformers. New Super Mario Bros. U, Super Mario 3D World, the highly anticipated at that time Rayman Legends, and this game highly saturated the console with platformers, to the point that Hey, edit this part out, okay? I fucked up, okay? Okay, let's continue. All of these, well, I kind of agree that the library was... fuck. I like all of these, but I kind of agree that the library was platformers for a bit, and this game's announcement really didn't help that much. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game. I want to make a long ass video about it if I didn't like it. But the game just released at the wrong time. If it released maybe in 2015 or 2016, it would have probably get more praise. But it ended up mixing in with people's minds as with all of these games as just another platformer, which isn't just a platformer, it's an amazing game. As I said, it just released at the wrong time. Anyway, I rambled long enough about the pre-release of this game. Now let's talk about the story. Not that it has much of a plot anyways, but I thought it would be nice to mention it and pad out the runtime of the video. Story. Of course, like most Nintendo games, there isn't much of a story to be had in this game. The Kong family, consisting of Diddy, Donkey, Dixie, and Cranky, are all celebrating DK's birthday, which is a bit strange. The original Donkey Kong came out on 9th of July 1981, and DKC1 came out on November 21st of 1994. Again, this is related to the whole delay switching release days with Mario 3D World thing, but I digress. As DK is about to blow his candles, we see a ship full of Viking penguins on it, blowing into the trumpets as one of them goes to the presumed boss and leader. He blows into a giant trumpet and it blows the DK family out of the island and freezing the entirety of DK Island. Hence the name Tropical Freeze. Honestly, it's not much of a plot here. Just your average save X person or Y thing cliche we've seen a million times but now. But now that we talk about everything surrounding the game, let's finally talk about the game itself and its gameplay. Gameplay. Holy shit. This is the best 2D platformer I've ever played. Yes, it's even better than DKC2. Unbelievable. The amount of polish and the new moves and the mechanics that are in the game are just blow my mind. The original DKC trilogy had simply yet engaging gameplay. You run around, you jump, you roll into enemies, you can throw your buddy to access certain areas, at least in DKC 2 and 3. Finding bonus rooms to collect coins so you can spend on new levels, very fun and creative bosses, they had it all. I'm surprised not as many people talk about classic 2D Mario or classic Sonic, but they just don't talk about DKC. I mean, yeah, they are pretty difficult, but in my opinion, it's just add to the game's fun and its quality. It's just weird seeing how many people talked about Mario and Sonic, but barely talked about DKC. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. Let's talk about the new DKC games. In return, we had a couple of new moves. We had the hand slap, which can be used to find secrets and opening of these little plant thingies to collect collectibles or items. This move for turning Tropical Freeze and basically works how it did back in Returns. Returns also had this blowing move, which kinda weird. Like I said, I haven't played the game, but I'm happy it was removed in Tropical Freeze. I don't see how it could have been useful. In Returns, we had Diddy Kong, who helped us stay afloat with his jetpack, which is a neat little reference back to Donkey Kong 64. But besides that, he didn't do much. In Returns, DK on his own had 2 hit points, and when he got Diddy, he got 4, which made the game a bit easy, but I don't mind it. Now in Tropical Freeze, we have a lot of new moves to go over. The hand slap, as said previously, returns in this game. Diddy is back, but we also have some old friends to say hi to. Dixie Kong and Cranky Kong. You can find them in barrels by breaking them, and they latch onto you and help you along your way. With Dixie being super OP, having this little twirl, which you might think doesn't help that much, but believe me, it is. It is super helpful. I can't stress the amount of times it helped me to get a puzzle piece or save me from death. Cranky Kong is great too. He has his cane which works like pogo stick from the DuckTale NES game. You can bounce on Spike and enemies with it, and if you roll then use the bounce, it can give you some serious speed which speedrunners have abused the fuck out of. Dixie and Cranky have a great new current addition to the game. They kinda make Diddy obsolete, especially Dixie. I use Dixie like 95% of the time, and only use Cranky to get to the secret areas. Some new quirks are that unlike the original trilogy, where you just held down a jump button after jumping on enemies to bounce higher, in this game and Returns you can't do that. Instead, you have to hit the button just before you hit the enemy, which I'm fond of, but it can be a bit clunky sometimes, and it can lead to some unfair deaths, but it's okay. Another thing has changed the role. In the original trilogy, you could roll into multiple enemies if they were close to each other. Here, you can't do that. The roll just stops after a few seconds. The only way you can do an endless roll is that if you have any of the helper Kongs, Diddy, Dixie, or Cranky. If you have them, then you just mash the Y button and roll forever. But it's just kind of a weird change that I don't understand, but I can tolerate it. Doesn't hurt the game for me. Anyways, now that we got the mechanics and movesets out of the way, we can talk about the collectibles. The collectibles in these games are puzzle pieces and Kong letters. You can find the Kong letters throughout this stage, and they're pretty easy to find. And this time, they aren't useless unlike the original trilogy. Yay! Here, they give you some artwork and concept art, which is pretty cool. The puzzle pieces are pretty hidden too, and they can be in the ground, which you have to use your hands left to find. They can be in an obscure wall or spot, or even in the bonus room. Now let's talk about the bonus rooms. They're not as good as the bonus rooms in DKC 2 or 3. They turn them into more like DKC 1 bonus room, which I wasn't a big fan of. Here you just collect bananas to get a puzzle piece, which is fine. But compared to the amount of fun and creativity DKC 2 and 3's bonus rooms had, with killing enemies, collecting stars, doing a platforming challenge, it just falls short. It's kinda disappointing. But hey, at least you get something for doing unlike in DKC 1. Anyway, now let's talk about the minecart levels. They're pretty fun actually. Here, when you go into the minecart, you only get 2 hit points, which gives the game some extra difficulty. And they're the same as previous games, fun and challenging. Another thing that you can swim pretty realistically in this game, and you have to get some air like in Sonic games, which I thought would be annoying, but it really wasn't. I never drowned since there was always enough air for me to get. Another aspect I want to talk about are the enemies. It turns out in this game we don't see the Kremlings at all, not even King K. Rool. Which when Retro Studios was asked why there were no Kremlings in the game, they said that they wanted to make the game more unique and creative and not just rely on nostalgia. Which I understand, but come on man, you could have at least put edit this part out. You could have at least put K. Rool in the game as the final boss. Man, I miss the Kremlings. I hope they come back someday. But we have the snowmans, the new sets of our enemies, which consist of penguins, owls, seals, etc. They're fine, but they're nowhere near as memorable or funny or quirky as the Kremlings. But they're pretty okay. Now let's talk about the bosses. The bosses in this game are actually pretty good and fun. They have pretty creative attack patterns, and they're pretty fun to dodge. Some of them can be a bit irritating, like the Word 3 boss, while others in the World 5 boss are some of my favorite bosses in the game. And the last boss against Lord Frederick is pretty damn tough. After you beat the game, we get the credits and where the island is destroyed with former glory, and we get a banger song on top of it. So when we go back to the DK Island after beating the game, it's still frozen, which I know is just part of the game design, but it would have been cool if the ices were melted and the levels were more tropical, kind of like how in the secret pool of DKC 3, the whole place just turns hot and red after beating K. Rool. Anyways, let's move on to the last world. It consists of 3 levels, but these are the hardest 3 levels in the entire game. They're pretty fun too. After we 100% the game, we unlock hard mode. Hard mode is essentially the main game again, but this time you can play as Diddy, Dixie, Cranky, or Donkey on their own. It's pretty tough too. There's no checkpoints, you can only get 1 hit point. You have to collect blue Kong letters too, which is my opinion fun. Overall, I like hard mode. It's a nice little cherry on top of the game. We have some other aspects to talk about too. Funky Kong has a shop now. He sells things like barrels, lives, invincibility, even lets you rent squawks, which helps you find puzzle pieces. Speaking of animal buddies, we only have Rambi in this game. He is fine, and the controls of him are pretty good. I like how he can destroy walls and enemies in his way, but he only appears literally 3 times throughout the whole game. A little disappointing we didn't get On Guard or Rattly and stuff, but it's okay. Now, you may think that me saying this game has some disappointing aspects means that I don't like it. No, it's not like that. Sure, it may not have the elements of the older games, but in my opinion, it balances out with new, fresh level ideas and other stuff. There's way too many great levels to mention here, but I'll show you some of them. I like the entirety of World 5 with how bouncy and fun it is. It's with you bouncing on jello, swimming in fruit juice, being in a beehive, nice DKC2 reference there. I like World 3 with how it looks like Africa with the savannah and the bramble levels. I like how World 2 is about autumn and fields and stuff. I just love the level design of this game. It is truly unlike anything I've played before. It's just amazing. This game really is a masterpiece of level design and how wild and creative you can get with it. It's amazing in every way. I don't know if any game can surpass it for me. Maybe in the future with another DKC game, maybe that will be peak, but for now this is as fine as 2D level design gets. Something else about the levels are the secret hard levels for each world. They can be unlocked after beating all the levels in the world, and man, these levels hit hard as shit, but they're super fun too. They're like Champions Road from Mario 3 rule was like there's one in every world, which is a super cool aspect of this game. The more content there is, I will be. You only collect puzzle pieces in these levels, but the main focus is on the precise platforming and obstacles. Some of the inputs you have to do have to be perfect timing, or else you will die. The cool thing about these levels are that they combine the best and hardest aspects of all the levels in the world and combine it into these little bundles of everything enjoyable and memorable about the world. Super cool. As the levels in the game couldn't make me any more happy than I already am, it makes me truly happy to be experiencing this game in all of its beauty. Music. Music has always been one of the most important and memorable parts of the DKC series. With composers like David Boaz and Evelyn Fisher, it is no surprise these games have a wonderful OST. This surprisingly doesn't rely too much on nostalgia or borrowing off of older games. It does in some parts, but those are very brief and quick. And the soundtrack we have here could be considered as one of the most amazing and beautifully crafted pieces of music ever. And this is just a fraction of the entire soundtrack and what it offers. There are way too many great songs to put here, and Nintendo would nuke my channel if I did. Hell, they might even do it now. But overall, this soundtrack is just as, if not better than even the older soundtracks like DKC 1, 2, and 3. Also, the GBA soundtracks of DKC 3 is super underrated, and even some of the motifs are present in some of Tropical Freeze's songs. It has nothing to do with the review, but I just wanted to put it here. Go check it out on Fwiki, and even for a better experience, you can listen to the beautiful restoration of the OST by Drawn and Quartet, and the restoration of the original trilogy's OST by the great Jammin' Sam Miller. Conclusion. At the end of the day, this game is a true masterpiece of level design and platforming, with a great soundtrack and some nice little throwbacks to the older games for the hardcore fans, with all of its amazing aspects and levels, with all of its amazing movement and graphics. It's just a masterpiece that cannot be replicated. It is truly one of the best platformers I've ever played and the best 2D one so far. It just makes me kinda sad and worried of how Nintendo hasn't really released or paid any attention to DK as a franchise in the past 10 years. And what makes me even more concerned is that Nintendo could have turned it into a dead franchise. Nintendo is infamous for neglecting its less popular franchises like Punch-Out or other games. I hope DK isn't going to be one of them. But all we can do is hope and stay determined for a new game.
I think that I'll just die with